What's up everybody, I'm back with part 2 and now we're gonna dive right into it and fixing the contour on the forehead. I'm using the eraser lightly like I did with the blush. I'm also erasing the highlight area. It's gonna look much better. Just play around with that. So the same way we use cross hatching for the pencils, now we're using for the eraser to lightly erase the colors, blending it in but not making it look really bad and a hot mess, because you don't want that. Don't rush with this and it'll come out nice. So now that the nose is colored in, I'm going to take the brown and lightly color over the shading that I did with the number 2 pencil, and I'm going to also use the light brown and the tan color and get the number 2 pencil again to mix everything together and keep going back and forth between the pencils. It's time to blend that tan with everything. Every now and again you might have to go back in and fix some of the shading or the coloring as a whole, and that's fine because the whole purpose is to get everything to look nice and natural and neat. With the cheeks now, I'm lightly erasing some of the tan that I put because this is a highlight area. I'm gonna bring some tan back in, but also get the white color in there. Now it's time to bring that shading on the jawline. Do the same colors we've been using for all the shading. Do the cross hatching as usual. Repeat the same steps here that we did for the cheekbone. Outline the jawline, lightly go back and forth. Go a little bit darker on the edge of the jawline. Go lightly as you go upward towards the lips. Okay, so now we highlight that chin. What we're doing here is lightly erasing some of the color that we already put there, like we did with the other areas. And then it's time to get the white. Blend all of that together. Once we do that, you're gonna have to go back with the other colors again. Repeat the steps over and over until it looks just right. Going back into the blush because we added some more color into the face, so now it's time to really blend that in with the rest of the face. So I'm going to bring some of the magenta outwards, more towards the cheeks, and then I'm also going to add a little bit of pink to soften it up and make it look more natural. I'm also going to add the number 2 pencil back in there as well because I really want this contour to stand out. Erasing just a little bit like I did before, nothing new here. It's time to add a little bit of white to blend in the colors together. You might lose a little bit of the color when you add white, so it's alright to just add some more color on top of it, as I've done throughout like half of this video and the other one. So here I'm finally adding more of that shading to the top of the eye. When you do coloring, it doesn't matter in what order you color in. You can color whatever order you want. As you see, like I go back and forth between areas, so just do whatever method works best for you. And now we're really gonna contour the nose even further by bringing the brown color as well as the other shading colors down towards the nostrils. Even when you do the inside of the nostrils, I colored a little bit darker with the number 2 pencil and then black, and then underneath that area then there's a little shadow, and that's when I used brown and the number 2 pencil. And I'm just telling you this now in case you don't see it where my hand covers it as usual. My apologies. Shadows on the corners of the nose. So we're going to use the same colors that we used for the rest of the shading. Blend it all together. On the corners, go from dark to light like we did with everything else. Now I'm doing the highlight on the nose by lightly erasing, bringing some of the color back in later on. Alright, now it's time to highlight the arm. I already colored with the shadow colors earlier. It's basically the same steps we were doing throughout this whole thing, so there's no point to show it again. The arm has a lot of highlighting in it, so we're going to use a lot of the eraser here. And part of the arm is going to be practically white because that's how strong the highlight is on this. Now we're still going to bring some of that tan in on the sides of the arm. And just work that in. I still had to add some more of the shading in the arm, but that's alright. See, when you do coloring, like I said before, you're gonna have to go back and add a little bit here and there, messing around with the shading and then going back in, adding some white in the highlighted areas. Her tattoo is very light at a certain area because that's where the highlight was, so you're not going to see all of the letters. That's why I erased there. And there's a little highlight a little bit above the lettering, but mostly on the lettering. Just mess with the colors and then you'll be done with that and on to the next step. Time to do the other cheek, and I'm using the same steps. It's just that there's a little bit of a shadow on the bottom. You see I had to do a little bit of shading there and then add a little bit more of the tan there as well. Bring that upwards, and then that's when I'll add the blush. Go back and forth with the colors. It's the same thing we did on the other side of the cheeks. Erase a little bit in the center where the highlight is and add some white. Blend all of it in together. There's a little bit of shading above the lip, so just add a little bit there. Gonna mix number 2 pencil with the light brown and a little more tan. Work in some white in there as well because it's very light in the area. I just went back and added a little bit more white to the highlighted areas. White is good with these pencils because it blends things in better. Oh god, so this was the part that I found to be most difficult, which was finding the right colors for the lips because it's a bunch of different stuff mixed in together. I thought I would just have to use magenta and red, but I ended up having to use magenta, red, pink, and violet. And I thought I wouldn't have to use violet, but since the color is more on the cool side, I had to add in a cool color, which is violet in this case. So I'm gonna fast forward through my struggles here and then I'll come back when I figured out the colors and got it right. So this is where I figured it out. I put the tan on the bottom of the lips and then violet on the sides, magenta, and then the red. Tried a bunch of times on the top lip, but then I was struggling with that constantly. So then I figured it out when I got to the bottom lip. And after I figured it out over there, that's when I erased everything that was on the top lip. Repeated the same steps that I did on the bottom. And then I use the eraser to blend it a little bit. And make sure that you add the shadow that is underneath the top lip. And there's also a line in the middle of the bottom. I went back in and added a little bit more tan on top. It's all good though. So I just double checked the red, and it's actually the color mahogany that I used. I went back and forth with the eraser and the white color pencil just to get the exact color that was on the lips in the original picture. Shadow, I also added a little bit of black, but not too much, because the shadow's not that dark. Right now it's time to erase what I did on the top, but it was all wrong. All wrong. We're going to erase everything, start from scratch, and get it together. And there was also a tiny highlight on the side of the top lip, which is where I was kind of having an issue with. What I did was I just erased in that area that had a highlight on it. Doesn't that look so much better? Way better. So see how I'm layering the colors on top of one another? Similar how we did it to the bottom portion of the lip. Also add a little shadow as you go along. Then I had to erase the little area that had the slight highlight there. So now it is finally time to color in that shirt. And I'm going to be using mahogany as well as orange and mixing those colors together. The shirt is like a red-orange. And since I don't have that color, I mixed these two together. And I also added number 2 pencil in there as well to bring back some of the shadows that's in the shirt. I'm coloring in her tattoo because I noticed that it was also a reddish mahogany color. So I'm just coloring that in from dark to light because it also has the highlight on it. Here I'm just adding more to the shadow underneath the chin because I noticed that it's a bit darker than how I originally had it. So I'm just adding some more brown and some black to get it the exact way it is in the original photo. And then we on to the hair, I think. Now I'm just adding the finishing touches to the skin, and I'm using the tan color in a circular motion to blend in everything and to fill in some of the white areas that didn't get to be colored when I used the cross-hatching method. Then after that, we can finally get to the hair. Before you color in the hair, you want to make sure that you don't mess up anything. Just outline around the hair first and then color it in. Okay, so we're finally doing the hair now. Starting off using the cross-hatching method as usual. Her hair is 2 colors, so I'm using black and dark brown. So I'll be using that back and forth. I'm doing the circular motion I was talking about earlier. And her hair is a little textured. She has curly hair. Otherwise, if the hair is like straight, or maybe I like to do the little hair strokes like I did with the eyebrows. But since hers is curly, I'll be using a little circular motion and a bigger circular motion to show some texture. Hair is darker at the bottom and there's more brown at the top of her hair, so keep that in mind. But it's also really dark near the neck, so that's why I'm like coloring in very black over there, and then everywhere else just mix in the dark brown and the black. As you can see, one side is done and it should look something like that. Now it's time to do this side over here, which won't take as long as the other side. And after we finish that side, we're finally done! there are some baby hairs where the hairline is, and underneath that there's a little shadow, so I'm gonna use the light brown color to do the shadow, and then add little baby hairs with the black pencil, and after that just fix up the part. And usually when I do hairline strokes, do it the way that you want it, the way that it looks in the photo. It doesn't have to look exactly like the image. We're just using that as a reference. And then you will be done. Finally, through all that time. See, we went from this picture to the black and white. Nice. And then to the color picture. That's it. I hope this was helpful. I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!
What you listening to, son? I don't think you like it. Why not? I like this new generation of music. I play Pokemon Go every day. I play Pokemon Go. I play Pokemon Go every day.
He's in the car.
They cannot be serious.